everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I am joined by Jim Donnan, the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, and Dayne Young, our executive producer on our shows. And I'm glad that you have joined us on this Wednesday. We've had to move it back. Kirby Smart was speaking yesterday to the media. Plus, we had to move it back due to Memorial Day. I hope everyone had a safe and thoughtful Memorial Day. Shout out to all the people who have served and all those who served and did not come home. That is what Memorial Day is all about, and I hope everyone had a moment of introspection for the fact that we could take a day like today and talk Georgia football thanks to the sacrifices of those who came before. So we give them our sincere and utmost thanks. Right now, the SEC meetings are going on in Destin, Florida. Our man Anthony Dasher is down there reporting. He's had videos and stories populate the board. You need to check out UGAsports.com to read all of those. And I guess the first thing I noticed, Coach, was when Kirby Smart spoke yesterday, he didn't pull any punches. He's very adamant about the fact that there needs to be just one transfer portal. He didn't like the idea of going to 9 games, but he didn't like the idea of a situation where you say give up playing Ohio State like they're supposed to, stop playing Clemson and all that, and add another SEC game. Normally when we get Kirby at a press conference, he basically says, look, you guys figure everything out and just tell me so that I can adjust my plan. I can decide, or I can figure out what's best for my team based on what the new rules are going to be. When he's asked about the playoff and playoff expansion, he goes, I don't care. Just tell me what the rules are. Hey, Kirby, how about NIL? I don't care about NIL. Just tell me how to do what the new rules are so that I can do what's best for my team. He's always been very quiet, or I don't want to say uncaring, but he doesn't really put forth his opinion very much. He says that's the realm of the administrators. That's the realm of the presidents. That's the realm of Greg Sankey and the other SC and the other conference commissioners. That basically he always almost acts like it's above my pay grade. But we know he cares. We know he has opinions. And I feel like yesterday he kind of flexed those opinions. He was very adamant about some of his topics, some of his thoughts. So do you think he's most respected coach in college football? And I'm not saying that because I cover Georgia. I just talk to people. I've been all over the country. And if I say I cover Georgia, it's like, oh, what about that Kirby Smart? They respect him. And I think he realizes that the respected voices like his need to speak up and make their views known. What are your thoughts, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is Kirby. People don't know a lot of things about behind the scenes. You know, he is was the chairman of the rules committee for the AFCA and was a big part of some of the changes that were made. And, you know, he's always been a guy that everybody respects his opinion. But I think the general feeling of most coaches, and it was the same with me, was that hey, you can say all you want to about what you want to do, but these athletic directors and presidents are going to, in the end, make the decisions, and that's the way it's going to be. So you're kind of careful about saying a whole lot publicly because you don't want to look like you're stepping on the toes of your president or your athletic director. But I think in the case of the issues that we have, the 9th game, the transfer portal as far as the dates, certainly really big in college football, not to mention how we're going to handle NIL with the revenue sharing and conference championship games. People are talking about, are you going to have some kind of play-in situation to, you know, there's all kind of thoughts out there. So, you know, I think the biggest thing for us is just, as usual, sit back and let the bombs fly, because that's what's going to happen. No matter what we say or what he says, it's going to be, you know, everybody's going to listen to everything. But then the bottom line is going to be, which I think is better now. I don't think the smaller schools have much say so in the NCAA like it used to be, you know, all the voting. But the power groups, particularly the Big Ten and SEC, pretty much they control what's going to happen.
That was the definitely feeling I've seen from people outside the Big Ten and the SEC. They are They're panicking, Coach. They dynamics. They're getting worried that they're going to be kind of left out, especially when you see things floating around attributed to the conference leader saying, "Why are we still in the NCAA?" And the proposal to have a governing body, a different governing body, came out instead of the NCAA, and everyone trying to come up with $20 million to pay their players. There is a panic amongst the other conferences right now, worried that this whole thing is kind of slipping away from them.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, if you're I'm not saying a lesser conference, but if you're the other conferences, you're thinking, well, all the TV money is going to be directed toward these big hitters. And, we got to find a way to sustain our programs, not just only football and basketball, but the other sports. And I think that's a real issue for us too, because even though we're going to get the same amount of money as everybody else from the NCAA on this revenue sharing, we're going to have to find a way to make up that money, because that's out of your budget, because that TV money was put into your budget. Now it's going to be put into NIL. So you're going to have to find a way through marketing, through donors, through added signage at the games, whatever it might be. I mean, maybe ticket prices, who knows? But unless you come up with that deficit, then you're going to have to control a lot of different budgets, like travel's not going to be as extensive for some of these lesser sports, cut back on staff, cut back on, scholarships, who knows? But I just don't want to see some of these sports that really have worked hard to get to this plateau be relegated to a kind of a status of just a lot of walk-ons, and it would be just club sports, what it would be. So, and I'm not the prophet of doom there. It's just reality. No. If you just look, Dayne sent me which he's always on top of things, but he sent me a text that Oklahoma's cutting 15 people in their athletic department, and and the AD's taking a cut in salary. And the reason for that, I guarantee you, I don't say a lot of things that are right, but I believe this: Oklahoma and Texas had to come in a couple years with a limited share of the SEC. They're not getting a full share yet. So you take what they were making in the Big 12 and less what they're going to get for for our league this year. I think I'm right on that. They do have a reduced. They don't get as much as everybody else. So that's a big shot to your budget. And then all of a sudden, trying to come up with this NIL too. So, but
it's happening in Georgia now, Coach. I mean, I almost call it a hiring freeze, but I know that some positions, some of the smaller positions have been phased out. They're told people who were there last year, "Hey, look, we can't renew your contract for this upcoming year." So when the big schools are, have this issue, and if you're an ACC school right now, you're thinking, we're not going to have the contracts the other schools have. And they're talking about putting together a super conference or an expanded playoffs where they guaranteed to get 4 teams in, and we may not be guaranteed anybody. So the only reason I bring it up is everybody's eyes are on the SEC meetings, not just SEC schools, because it's one of the power player. And when Kirby comes out and says stuff, they pay attention to what he says, because it matters. This is everybody's on pins and needles trying to figure out how this thing's going to work out. And I've not seen panic like this in a long time. People are worried.
Who's panicking? I don't know who you're talking about.
I'm talking about some of these the ADs at some of these other schools.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't think the fans would be. But
no. The fans are still complaining about the transfer portal. Speaking of, Dayne, there's a lot going on with the transfer portal. Kirby came out and said some stuff yesterday. You want to kind of summarize that?
I mean, there's the debate of, do you want to have multiple transfer portals, or as Kirby Smart wants it in January, even as some teams are still playing in the college football playoff, that would be the transfer portal window, and then leave it at that. I saw Dan Mullen echoed the same thing. And Kirby, I think the main thing that he did in his time down in Destin, it seemed like he was putting that as the spotlight number one topic that as a coach is most meaningful to him. All this other stuff that people were talking about, 8 games SEC, 9 games in the SEC, how many teams in the playoff, automatic seeding, he didn't give any of that as much credence as transfer portal stuff. And so that hierarchy I thought was interesting, because I don't know that the reporting before Kirby said that probably matched that same kind of hierarchy.
Yeah, and we get Kirby's intake. I don't know how many of these other coaches. I'm sure they're covered by different media outlets, but so I'm sure a lot of them had some of their thoughts too that were similar to that. But the biggest thing for me on that transfer portal is, and Kirby's a master at it, and we've talked about it for 5 or 6 years now, roster management. If you know in January who your team is, then you can build everything around that throughout the spring, the summer, the fall. But if all of a sudden you start building your team, and then after the spring you have another transfer group, then how are you going to build your depth, and what are you going to do? And depth is critical. You keep hearing Kirby say the biggest difference in our teams now and 3 or 4 years ago is depth. Quality depth is not going to be very prevalent on any team now, because why would you stay? And people want to play and win and everything, but they also want to play and get meaningful time. So a lot of guys are leaving some of these teams just so they can get similar money, but they can be a starter, So it's hard to get depth. I'm telling you, it's very hard to get quality depth.
And Radi, you were talking about Kirby Smart being more public, more outspoken, using his position and to kind of express the things that he thinks deserves change in college football. I was getting that from Greg Sankey as well, that he's more outspoken and he's more in a driver's seat in a leadership position. And we keep talking about how it feels more like the NFL every year, where you're going to have your 2 main conferences and here's your playoff and all of that. The job that Greg Sankey's doing right now very much feels like that of a Roger Goodell, of what do I have to do to protect my member schools? Because going into media days, it sounded like, all right, in a 16-team playoff, maybe you get 4 automatic seats from the SEC and they figure out how to get that. It sounds like some of the chatter maybe, why would the SEC limit itself to 4 out of 16?
No, yeah, Kirby said yesterday, he says, look, you get 13 out of 16 teams, in baseball or gymnastics or softball or something like that, and no one bats an eye. But then all of a sudden you can't let in Ole Miss and Alabama and South Carolina into the playoffs because that's too many. So he didn't say it's bullshit, but he basically said, look, why do we get hurt in football and no one cares about the other sports? And he's got
the shoe could be on the other foot. I mean, we could be that close next year, like we were a couple years ago. You know what I mean? And it's just, I just see so many of these teams get hot at the end of the year.
Yeah.
In these other sports, and they win national championships, and they, just for instance, Georgia tennis team, toward the end of the year, they lost 2 really important matches on the road at Texas and at Texas A&M, and didn't win the SEC championship. They came back and won the tournament, and then went on and won the nationals. But thank goodness, they had a good enough draw that they were able to maintain their status. They had to beat a lot of teams to win it, but and every sport's different as far as the setup. But I just don't think it should be. It's kind of like Switzer said one time, which I think is a good analogy. He said, "Hey, if you're gonna pick the best team, all Big 8 team, pick our whole offensive line. I don't want to hear this bullshit about we got to get somebody from every team, and and we're gonna have a second team guy from Kansas who won 1 game and all that." Said, pick the best 5. If you pick the best 5, it's OU. We're the best O-line. We got the best players. And he was adamant about it. He said, I don't like all this stuff about trying to appease everybody. He said, you got to base it for the play. He said, I'm standing up for my players. Said, I got guys that deserve it, and that's the way it should be. And we ended up getting 4 that year when we should have got 5. But I like the fact that he would. So that's what basically Kirby's saying, that, if you look at our league, and one of the things he said last year when one of these national people were talking about, our record and schedule, he said, hey, any of y'all want to come on down and play this SEC schedule? Come on down. We'll take it on. Let's see what you can do with it. And the other thing he said about Alabama beating us, he said, that's true, but we've never played them at home since I've been coaching. So I think he makes a good point there, too, that the schedule hadn't worked out. And we've lost some tough games to him. But Kirby's very slick operator. I mean, he thinks, and he's very astute at what he says. And I know that he felt like listening to him yesterday, I felt like he was, he had something in his saddle and he wanted to get it off, because I've never heard him talk about so many subjects without stopping and, usually get to the point and go. But every point he made was good, but there was a good rhythm to what he was saying, and he kept on making good points to let everybody know what the coach is going through right now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's kind of why I would let off the show with it is I'm not saying he wasn't pushing an agenda. Well, Dayne, maybe about the transfer portal he was, but everything else he was like, look, I'm going to let you know what I think. You may not come down on my side, but I have political capital with my championships and my run and my gravitas within the sport, my respect within the community. I'm going to come out and say what I think. Let the chips fall where they may. If I don't get my way, so be it. At least you'll know where Kirby Smart stood. You said the same thing about Greg Sankey, Dayne. Greg, he came out and said, look, this is what's best for the SEC. This is what I think we should do. And I really think that it's needed, right or wrong. I think you need that leadership because nature abhors a vacuum. There's been a huge vacuum in leadership with the NCAA basically becoming toothless. Every state legislature making their own rules, their own laws, the NCAA losing every court case, complete unknowns about how the house settlement's going to work out, how the future of NIL, the future of collective bargaining. Like we said, there's all these topics in the air, and everybody keeps saying, well, let's see how it plays out, but no one's taking the bull by the horns. I mean, you saw the cry last year, Coach, people begging Nick Saban to basically become the commissioner of college football. They're looking for direction. They're looking for leadership. And I think Greg Sankey and Kirby Smart kind of stepped into that role a little bit, saying, look, we're not saying that we're the guys, but we're going to tell you what needs to be done. And I like that Kirby Smart actually flexed. If you had to pick a guy who understands the problems being faced by coaches, couldn't pick a better guy than Kirby Smart. His success and sometimes his frustrations show you what's going on with the whole sport. So I was glad to see him come out. And I'm with you 100% when you talk about how it's the NFLization of college football. We're seeing a lot more parity because you can't stack the rosters like you used to. Nick Saban had 5 stars waiting on the bench. Kirby Smart did when he won 2 titles. I mean, remember we were waiting on Broderick Jones to get a chance to play, but there were better players ahead of him. Tough to imagine. You just don't have that anymore, Coach. You can't stack them like cordwood, as you say. Yeah. So Kirby keeps talking about depth is because he just doesn't have it, and he's worried about the youth. He's got a lot of young guys on this team. 75% of them are either sophomores, redshirt freshmen, or freshmen.
It's hard to build depth and give somebody the adequate reps in spring if you're worried about the guy going in the portal. And you got a feel for him after the fall. The guy's kind of hemming and hawing. Mel, I'm going to come back for spring and see how I do, but, I'm thinking about it. Well, you give him that time and you take away from the younger guy, and then all of a sudden he leaves. So I think it's a real paradox for a coach to try to figure out what to do with the spring thing. And then the other thing about bringing somebody in, which we've been fortunate, most of our guys have panned out, but let's say you count on somebody coming in to be a really good player in the transfer portal, and he can't learn the system, or he gets hurt, or he's not good enough. That's another roster deal. But we've got a situation here where we've been used to having a lot of depth and playing so many players and all, and you just have to change your style a little bit. I mean, you can't. It's like anything. You got to continue to evolve with the situation. And I think Sankey and the Big Ten commissioner, because they have the power of their conference and their TV money and everything, then obviously when they get in the room, the other commissioner is going to listen to them because if the Big Ten and the SEC don't want to do it, these other schools aren't going to get it across. That's for sure.
Yeah, they don't have the gravitas anymore.
And calendar wise, there's just I don't see a way that this is ever going to be nice and tidy because of how long college football goes now. Like you're talking August when you start fall camp through middle of January, end of January at this point. So it doesn't align with the academic calendar anymore. And so it was a terrible situation that Penn State makes the playoff and their backup quarterback has to transfer away because that's what the timing was. That's not ideal. You don't want that for you want a player to be able to finish out with their team. But I don't see a way around that, Coach, not with the way the calendar's set up now.
The other thing that talking about calendar, and Kirby brought this out yesterday, is your school. When does your school start? And you've got to get a guy in and get him registered. I mean, he's just not a transfer. He's got to go to school too. I mean, that's part of it. That's supposed to be used to be the number one thing, which I think for a lot of kids it still is, and hopefully that's the way it should be. But, we're not in an amateur situation anymore. So I think if you just look at December, what the whole football program is going through, you got official visits, you got kids signing to come in as mid-year transfers, you got the transfer portal imminent. You're getting ready for a championship game in a conference or a playoff game. And sure, these coaches get paid and everything, but I tell you, they earn their keep with all that stuff going on. And it used to be in December, you're getting ready for a bowl game and signing day was February, So it's just different. I mean, and at the same time, you're trying to hold on to your players too. I think
you're re-recruiting your whole team.
Yeah, you're letting everybody know where they stand. You got to let some guys go. I mean, that's just supply and demand. And I know the situation last year when Caleb Downs was looking. I mean, he was over here on a Thursday and looking at an apartment, and everything looked good. And then the next morning, he's off to Ohio State. So, but you're trying to deal with all that stuff and get your team ready for the playoffs. I mean,
yeah, it's a bit much. And I like Kirby's said, look, we don't need to go through it twice. It's too much. And we're going to talk real quick about the other topic that came up about the potential ninth game. I thought that was kind of interesting, Kirby's thoughts on that. But first, I want to mention our friends at Athens Ford because we're getting towards the end of May. It's just got a few days left. The deal where you can get the employee pricing, you pay what they pay. That's across the full lineup of trucks and SUVs. That ends the first part of June. So I've been talking about it for about a month and a half. If you have not jumped on that program, please do so. This is the best chance you'll ever have to buy a Ford truck, Ford Bronco, Explorer, Expedition, any of their Ranger, any of their Ford trucks and SUVs. You got to jump on it now. Get the Ford Explorer, get the Ford Expedition, get the employee pricing. It's the best deal we'll ever have. Now, yes, if you miss it, they will have new deals. They'll have, $7,000 off a 2025 Ford Explorer. They'll have great deals coming up. But again, if you can do it now, jump on this opportunity to get the Ford employee pricing. Don't miss it. And let the folks at Athens Ford know that we sent you. Also, if you're not in a place where you can go buy a car real quick, maybe you're in the wrong job. So reach out to our friends at myperfectfranchise.net. They can get you into a different job. They can get you into one where you are the boss, where if you're buying a Ford truck, you're charging it to the company. It is now a company vehicle. And Athens Ford does have a ton of commercial vehicles. But if you have a new roofing company, like our buddy Paul, it's like, hey, I can go to Athens Ford, get it, and buy it and, get the employee pricing and charge it to the company. I know the folks at Aaron Overhead Doors, they buy all their trucks from Athens Ford. And again, that's another it's an overhead door company. How do you get into how do you install overhead doors? How do you get into that franchise? Well, you reach out to Ludecki at myperfectfranchise.net, and he'll take care of you. So if you're not sure what's involved in franchises, just reach out to him. He'll get you squared away. All right. Coach, I want to get your thoughts on the the potential of adding a ninth game. I know I'm against it. I told people I think the SEC has enough, and I like Georgia playing Clemson. I like Georgia playing Ohio State, Louisville, NC State, Oregon. I love those games. I don't think it helps to play Texas A&M or Vandy or add some, Mississippi State, adding yet another SEC game on there. I've been quite adamant about this for a long time. But I also think I don't see the upside. I get that there would be more money. ESPN's come out and said, look, if you're adding a ninth game, we're open to paying you more money. Money rules the game. But I'm just against it, Coach. What am I missing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, scheduling wise. Certainly, we've played a very tough schedule since Kirby's been here. We look at all the non-conference teams we played, and we had that model a couple of years ago where we thought if they were going to do the 9, how they were going to rotate it and keep the 2.
You broke that news, by the way. Nobody knew that. That
was the model they were going to use, but they ended up Nick, Ray's, Kane, and some other people, and they just felt like it was. I mean, it really was kind of imbalanced to certain teams. But I think the biggest thing would be, to me, is how does it affect the playoffs? Because then ultimately you're trying to win a national championship. If you're a Power 5 elite program, that's how if Ryan Day hadn't won the national championship last year with that loss to Michigan, he would have been on Tulsa time this whole year. I mean, he was in severe. I mean, he had people on him.
They were chomping at the bit for his head.
He was able to rectify that with a tremendous playoff run. And I think a lot of teams do that. The way you finish the year is really important. But I just think scheduling has a lot to do with that. You just can't play. We used to call it a Ben-Hur schedule. That Ben-Hur movie lasts forever. And you just keep every week you're going to get some knockout team. And it takes its toll, particularly with the lack of depth now. I mean, it's hard to win and go what you got to do, win all those games. And so I think the coaches probably, if I'm the coach, I'm looking for 8 myself, just because why take on another SEC team if you don't have to, when you're going to have to play all these teams in the end of the year in the playoffs. So, and that's not dodging anything. That's just the reality. If we got our 2021, 2022 roster, hey, let's play 12 at Big 12. Let's play them all. But, we don't have that right now.
No.
So, nobody.
Honestly, like what is ESPN and college football showing you in the last 5-6 years? They're going to keep adding and increasing and doing more. So if you yield this control and have it become a 9th SEC game, who's to say the structure of the SEC weekend doesn't turn into a mini SEC playoff anyway to qualify for spots to get in there? So all of a sudden you've just added maybe even 2 or 3 more SEC games. I think they're going to be very conservative here.
Yeah, I mean, really, I don't know how one more game is going to affect the TV standpoint, because they really tilted the playoffs, adding more games in the playoffs. They added money on that instead of 4 teams with the 12. So, but, the thing about it, it's such a deal with Fox now. I mean, like Fox trying to hire Reese Davis to run their big noon show. It's a very competitive market there for NCAA football. Fox went to that big noon game at 12 o'clock to try to take away a little bit of the SEC prestige. But I think you've got a lot of different people, and you also got these ACC network, SEC network, and all that need volume to keep, where you can put some of these games where they're just not streamed or anything like on ESPN Plus. I mean, you talk about people being mad when we played that one game on ESPN Plus. There was a lot of people mad. So I think we could talk forever, and y'all make good points on it. But I'm for playing a traditional schedule. Try to get you got Tech, and right now Tech really is looming as a top 25 team. They got to do it now. They were close last year, but, losing like they did at the end of the year didn't help them any. But and they lost some good players in the portal. But you got Tech every year, and then you got, whoever else the other three are. But and let's be fair. Anybody that's still can get to the games, there's nobody in the history of football that's got a better home schedule than Georgia's got this year now. Hype about it forever going forward, but let's enjoy this one. I mean, can you imagine the teams coming in here to town and the way the money stream is going to be in here for Athens? And, you're looking at maybe 2 of them being game day. Who knows? But and you're probably going to get several night games just because of the going to be the big game. Texas, Alabama, maybe Ole Miss, but wow, what a schedule.
I'm glad you said that, Coach, because one of the things I'm seeing in college football are people saying this is not fair or it's not equal. That's not possible in college football because you mentioned Georgia's schedule, which, yes, it's at home, but it's still very difficult when you're talking Texas and Ole Miss and Alabama playing Georgia. Have you seen Missouri's schedule this year? Because somehow Missouri gets an SEC schedule without Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida, or Tennessee.
Same one they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody's is the same. You're just playing on the road when you played at home. So when they had a Congo line outside the Mizzou athletic department when the SEC schedule came out 2 years ago.
So did Texas.
Drinkwitz was out there, handing out pizzas to everybody because that schedule. And then Texas, like Radi mentioned, you talk about people being mad. Oklahoma, look at their schedule compared to Texas, and with the exception of us, Texas didn't play anybody.
Yep. And they played Georgia twice and lost twice. And everyone's like, Texas is the best team in the nation. I'm like, based on what? They ain't played nobody, Paul. So I'm right with you there. That was and again, that's what there are a lot of criticism of the college football selection committee because they basically came out and said losses mean more than strength of schedule. So if you're adding that 9th SEC team, that's just another chance for you to lose. I mean, right now, based on the way they pick and seed the teams, I'm going to play my 8-game schedule. If I'm Josh Brooks and I'm the AD, I drop Tech. I get 4 patsies. I'm going to play my 8 SEC games. I'm going to try to get the easiest 8 SEC games and get to the playoffs. I know that's not sexy. I know that's not fun. I know it's not the best way, but when you can put in SMU, you got to mold your schedule around the way the way they pick,
what way the philosophy is of the committee. That just any businessman molds his company around how to drive business, and that's what you do here.
Yeah.
And the end result, and the fans just got to take it like it is when you don't get some of these premier home games. But I just think that if we don't play another game here, which we will, but the last 5 years have been kind of golden era, man.
You haven't lost at home yet, so
people never experience that anywhere.
No, every team in America has lost a home game since 2020, except the University of Georgia. So that's when have you been able to say that? So it's crazy. Do want to address some breaking news. It started right as we joined the show. Ryan Mosley out of Carrollton, the 6'3", 195-pound athlete, has committed to the University of Georgia. We had a story ready on him. We thought it was going to happen last weekend. A big get for the Bulldogs. They like him on both sides of the ball, but they're bringing him in as a wide receiver. They kind of compare him to Noah Thomas. So he's a big kid, fast, great hands. Love it. Carrollton plays great football. That is an absolute powerhouse. So Ryan Mosley is going to be a Bulldog, and that's a great start for what's coming up this weekend, Coach. First official visit weekend this weekend. You've got 5 stars coming in. You've got guys that lean in Georgia's way. Cedarian Morgan, the wide receiver out of Alexander City, Alabama, Xavier Crowell, running back, Peyton Dyer, Caden Prothro, the ridiculously good tight end. Big weekend coming up, Coach, on the recruiting trail as the official visits get underway.
Right. Well, we had some official visits the last couple of weekends, but nothing like this. But
right, that's kind of what I'm saying. This is off the chain.
But the other thing, which makes my mouth water, is the camps.
Yeah,
they're going to have some really good players in here Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and it really is not. The word is camp, but it's more of a workout. Right. I mean, officially, the kids pay $25, $30, get a T-shirt and everything to make it legal. But it's hey, you're coming in here to verify that you're capable of getting a Georgia scholarship. Pretty much it. And some really big time players. And I love to watch young players because that's something that I can do fairly well is pick them out. So, and maybe not as good as I used to, but I just feel like it's really fun to see them at that age, and how they're going to project. You know what I mean? Some of them, right away is going to be the guy. But and as we've mentioned several times, it really is important to get these guys in here and make sure they meet your standards. And I want to give just a quick shout out to Coach Coley. Coach Coley had a tough situation here, and it didn't work out. And he kind of bit the whatever he did and left and went to A&M. But he came back here in a lesser role as a receiver coach. But boy, he's really increased that role as far as the players on our team. And coach,
that last class he signed. Good Lord, right. Alan Taylor, C.J. Wiley.
Yeah, I mean, all of Taylor, the kid from Oconee, North Oconee. But I just feel like we said when Kirby brought him back, an elite recruiter. I'm talking about has tremendous one-on-one capabilities, and also our ability to get into Miami now is a lot better because he's just so wired in there. So glad to get Mosley. I thought we would. We got to see him play when we were people watching Juju. So has anybody heard how Juju did out there in Colorado this spring?
He's riding a nice vehicle around.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people doing that, but I mean, he's playing.
That's what made the news. I didn't see anything about how he was performing, but I did see his nice new ride and neck chain. That made a lot of news. You give James Coley a shout out. I'm going to give one to Stacy Searles. I know a lot of people are, they are mad at Stacy Searles and they complain about him all the time. But I went out to Hawaii last week to speak to Malachi Lee, the big offensive lineman, 6'7", 330 pounds. Coach, when you talk about guys how they look getting off the bus, that guy looks phenomenal. He is a ridiculously talented offensive lineman at the Kamehameha school out there. And I asked him, I said, look, did things feel different after Georgia missed on Jackson Cantwell? Did you feel like Georgia's recruiting you differently? He said, not too much. I mean, yeah, it's different because, he went, Cantwell picked Miami. So I know Georgia needs me. But that morning when I went to see him, Stacy Searles had been out to Hawaii to see Malachi Lee for the second time. And I said, so he's been out here to see you twice. And he's like, yeah. I said, well, does that matter? And he goes, absolutely it does. That's a long trip. And Malachi Lee's been to Georgia 3 times. He plans to come back on, I think, June 10th to 13th. So he's going to be coming back for yet another visit. And it was just the effort that Stacy Searles put in flying out there twice. And again, he flew out, saw the kid, flew back. It wasn't like he didn't know what I did and spent 3-4 days out there claiming that it was a work trip. He actually went, showed up, flew straight back.
I remember when
if they get him, it'll be because Stacy Searles did it.
Yes, and Stacy's got good rapport with these guys. But I remember when Coley was recruiting Dylan Gabriel, and we had a game on Saturday, and he left Thursday after practice and went out there and watched the kid talked to him Friday and then flew all night and was back for the game on Saturday night.
That's a lot of time to be stuck in those small plane seats.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel, I mean, look at that guy, man. And look at where all he's looked at. I mean, guy's been everywhere.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of people just wanting to go to Hawaii to me. That's what it sounds.
Well, it's a good destination but going over there is pain in the butt. I mean,
it is a pain in the ass. There's no question. But
yeah, I've flown to Hawaii in regular class, and I've flown in first class. And if I ever go again, I'm going first class. I was
so jealous. I got on the plane. I looked at those SOBs up there. I'm like,
but I don't.
Hey, I still got to go. So it was.
It's a hard. We took the team out there, and I didn't think we'd ever get there. I mean, that was a trip. Took forever.
I still love the shirts you guys wore.
Oh yeah, we had some good gear and good. Dave Allen, rest in peace, came up with those shirts, and we played good. I mean, Virginia was good. That quarterback plays forever in the NFL. But Corey Phillips came through for us, and then Corey's nephew, Georgia's offered him, Teddy Gerard. I hope get to watch him this week. He's going to be over here throwing. So
I got to speak to Teddy Gerard last week. He was one of the guys that won a gold ball at the Rivals camp. That kid is legit.
He's a good-looking kid, and very proud of Corey now. I mean, he's one of the most prominent businessmen in the state now. I mean, he started that business right out of college where he would loan money to people that were getting ready to get some kind of settlement for accidents and all of them, just kind of loan it to them and then they paid him back. And now he's got doing the same thing with lawyers around the country, handling their accounts and showing them how to invest their money. And I mean, he's big time. Proud of him.
I thought it was funny that Teddy Gerard said he'd waited a long time to get that offer. And I asked him, I'm like, how's this offer feel to you? He's like, I earned it. I said, how many times did you throw for Mike Bobo? He goes, maybe 10 times. So Bobo put him through the ringer, worked him pretty hard. And when he finally got the offer, he said that he'd been waiting a long time to tweet out that picture of his uncle. And he tweeted out the picture of Corey. And I said, so how much have you learned from Corey about playing quarterback? He goes, not as much as I have. He's been trying to teach me golf every day. I meet him for lunch, and he tries to teach me golf.
Well, I don't know how much, but, Corey had a good arm. The thing about it's just hard to project a junior quarterback. Yeah. I mean, still got another 2 years, and he's definitely got a lot of upside. I saw him in the 8th grade because Corey brought him over here, and his mother and father, who very proud of him too. And I thought he had a lot of potential there. Ian Knight, guy that played center for me, he's got a quarterback, the son that's going to, Eli, that's coming up, that's going to be in the 8th grade. He's just going to be in the 8th grade, but boy, he looks like he's a lefty. He's got a lot going for him.
A lot of those kids. And again, all of it makes me feel old because, I remember covering Ian and all those guys, and it's like, here they're kids. Well, Drew Bobo makes me feel old. So
I never forget we were playing Kentucky up there, and they had Mummy, all those guys are throwing the ball. And it's the first game Corey ever really played, and put him in there, and, they jumped right up on us and everything. And I came over there after a timeout. I said, hey, Corey, it's time you started throwing the ball to our team now.
Go to me.
He wasn't throwing too many picks. He was not. I said, I want you to play like you do in practice. You got nothing to lose now. We're behind. We got to go for it. Kid passed for over 400 yards that day. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he let him up. Well, like I said, a lot of the kids we talk to when we interview them, they say, hey, I've got an offer from Georgia. And then we'll ask them, do they expect you to come up there and camp? And they go, yeah, they want to see me. I'm going up to throw for them. I'm going up to block. I'm going up to run, wait, like you said, they're going to be put through their paces the coming days, and you're going to see a lot of movement on the recruiting cycle. Check out the front page of UGASports.com. We have a great write-up by Sam Spiegelman, one of the best in the business. He wrote an entire article just about the guys that are visiting Georgia this weekend. You will not find a better recap of why these guys are important, where Georgia stands with them, and what Georgia's chances are than what Sam wrote. I mean, for a national guy to take that kind of time, I mean, he wrote a brilliant piece.
That's good. I'm going to have to read that. But another thing about these kids coming to the one-day deal is if I'm a coach and I'm recruiting Dayne and I'm saying to you, look, certainly I want to see you, but I want you to get to know me. I want you to see me in my environment, how I teach, come in a meeting room with me and see how comfortable you feel going over what we do, because I'm going to be me and you're going to be you. But we can talk all we want to about things when we're out here, recruiting, but on the field, on the grass, in the classroom, that's where you get a real feel for each other. And I think Kirby and his staff do a good job of that, of showing the guys that you're going to be coached hard. And if you don't feel good doing this, you better be careful about coming here, because this is the way it's going to be. And they don't sugarcoat it.
They do not.
They'll get on their butt a little bit in camp, and
they try to grind them down to see if they can handle it.
Yes, that's right. But it's definitely a proven commodity, because you just look at the year we had COVID and didn't have the camp, and look at the mistakes we made in recruiting.
Yep.
You see that all across sports right now. I was hearing an NBA writer talk about the NBA draft that happened during COVID and just how Tyrese Halliburton, who's a star in the NBA playoffs right now, there were so many teams that passed on him because they never got to work him out.
You think somebody's sick right now? How about the ESPN and ABC thinking they're going to have Oklahoma City and
Indiana?
I mean, those are not two of the biggest markets, but as far as national TV, but more power to those teams. And people in Oklahoma are going crazy. I mean, it's an unbelievable situation because it's the only pro team in the state, and really do rally around them. I mean, it's unbelievable how much they're going for it.
All right, last thing before we go, I want everyone to rally around the baseball team. They host the regional. I think they start Friday at noon. So get over to Foley Field, support your Bulldogs. Shout out, Coach mentioned the women's tennis team that won the national championship. Congrats to them. That was huge. The softball team almost made it to Omaha. So
women's track's on fire.
Women's track tore it up. Phenomenal results for them. So shout out
former UGA tennis star Ethan Quinn into the second round of the French Open.
Exactly. I mean,
man, I hated losing him.
Yeah, Mickelson and him, that hurt us. But anyhow, had a great weekend last weekend, Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, look at all the things that happened to them. It was impressive.
Yeah, just phenomenal run for the Dogs. So great time to be a Georgia Bulldog and great time to be a member of UGAsports.com. Check it out. After all these visits come through, we're going to have a lot of updates for you. So we will be talking about that next Tuesday when we are back to our normal schedule. Of course, we have more content coming from the SEC meetings. Dash is down there. Get to speak to Josh Brooks this afternoon. I'm sure he will have some interesting things to say. And, of course, we also talked to a bunch of the other coaches down there. So a lot of stuff coming from the SEC meetings. Check it out, and we will see you folks next week. Y'all take care.